Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the BPM Change Management meeting. This is Nicole Hines with the ISO. I'm filling in for Isabella today. Just a few housekeeping reminders. This call is being recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. Any related transcripts should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. This meeting is structured to stimulate honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. Please keep comments professional and respectful. Today, if you would like to ask a question, you can do so by raising your hand in the WebEx or hitting #2. Please note that #2 only works if you have dialed into the meeting. The raise your hand icon is in the bottom right-hand corner of the WebEx near your attendee name. When you are speaking, please remember to state your name and affiliation before making your comment. And if you need technical assistance during the meeting, please send a chat to our event producer today. On the agenda today, we're covering 10 BPMs. We have a total of 23 PRRs in the initial and recommendation stage. We have one PRR that was submitted by a stakeholder, and the rest of the PRRs were submitted by ISO staff. The business practice manual's purpose is to set forth processes that implement the ISO tariff. Every year, the ISO conducts a policy initiative roadmap process to consider and rank initiatives. Policy changes submitted through the PRR process will be referred to as a policy initiative roadmap process. And each subject area in a BPM is based on enabling language in the ISO tariff. The PRR process cannot be used to introduce changes that are not supported by existing tariff authority. So the first BPM that we're going to be talking about is the energy imbalance market. PRR 1389 is excluding outlier data from energy imbalance market uncertainty histograms, which is in the initial stage. And PRR 1368 is for unaccounted for energy settlement election process, which is in the recommendation stage. And I'm going to hand it over to Jamal to discuss these PRRs. Jamal?
For EIM BPM. This is to establish a guideline to help EIM entities in determining when and how to request the exclusion of the outlier data. We did not receive any comment on this PRR, and the initial comment period expired on October 19, and the next step, initial comment due. I'll move on to the next PRR for this EIM BPM, PRR 1368. This is related to a new process for unaccounted for energy settlement election detailed in section 2.4 of this EIM BPM. No comments submitted, and the recommendation comment period expired on October 19, and the next step is to post a final decision on this PRR. Any question on these two PRRs? Okay, I'll move on to the next three PRRs related to Market Operations BPM. I'll start with PRR 1387. This is related to the Hybrid Resources Phase 2A initiative. This particular PRR or change is focused on how hybrid generation resources can operate within the ISO market. This initiative 2A is targeted for release 2021. And we did not receive any comment on this PRR. Initial comment period expired on October 19, and the next step is the initial comments due. I'll move on to PRR 1382. This is to enhance the ability of energy storage and distributed resources to participate in the ISO market. It includes enhancement to the default energy bids, calculations for storage resources related to energy cost, variable cost, and price-based opportunity costs. This is also targeted for November 1st for release. No comments submitted, and comment period expired on October 19, and our next step is the initial comment would be due. Move on also to the last PRR, 1371 of this market operation. This is to address some of the operational concerns during a time a renewable resource is onboarding. Also, no comments submitted, and recommendation comment period expired on October 19, and our next step is to post the final decision. Any question on these last three PRRs?
As a reminder, you can raise your hand to ask a question or hit #2 if you are dialed in through the telephone.
Okay, I'll move on to the last two related to Market Instruments BPM changes. Start with PRR 1386. This is the same as PRR 1387, which is related to the hybrid resources, but of course this is for the changes for the Market Instruments BPM. Also PRR 1381, same as 1382, related to the energy storage and distributed resources, but also for MI BPM. Any questions for these last two PRRs or any other PRRs?
Thanks, Jamal.
Thank you.
The next BPM, yep, no problem. The next BPM we're going to talk about is Congestion Revenue Rights BPM. We have PRR 1388, which is Market Data Availability on Market Users Interface. This is in the initial stage, and I'm going to hand it over to Jacob to discuss this PRR.
Thank you. My name is Jacob Fox. I'm with the CRR team. So the reason for this revision is to document a new process for the time period after the market run date that the public download files will be available. And this is essentially 3 years after the effective period of a CRR market has been completed. The public download files related to that market will begin to be removed from the MUI and will no longer be available for download. We have no initial comments. The initial comment period expired on October 19th, and our next step is to post recommendation.
Thanks, Jacob. Are there any questions on this PRR?
I'm showing a hand raised.
Thank you. This is Seth with DC Energy. Thank you, Jay. I just have a quick question. I was looking at the list of things that you're moving over to the MUI, and I was just wondering why, or if you could also move over the limit expansion file. It's on the market participant portal today, but it doesn't look like it's getting moved over in this bunch of reports. I was wondering if you thought about that, or if there was a reason why it wasn't moved over as well.
So this PRR isn't about moving over files. It's more about archiving them and removing them off of the MUI. So we're not adding or we're not adding any new files to the MUI currently.
Okay, that's helpful to understand. So this is a new section. It's just laying out reports that are currently on the MUI, but you're going to roll them off after 3 years. Is that the purpose of it, to establish that protocol?
Yeah, and it's 3 years after the effective period of the CRRs have ended. So after they're no longer 3 years after, they're no longer valid. So you should have a good amount of time.
Okay. So the limit expansion file, would that persist beyond 3 years because it's not on this list?
So the limit expansion file is currently posted to the CRF&M website, or that SharePoint site right now. And I believe that we currently keep those on there for about 2 years.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, of course.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions on this PRR? Okay, moving on. The next BPM is a scheduling coordinator certification and termination. PRR 1385 is scheduling coordinator update for document submission process is in the initial stage. So the reason for the revision is to add information about how to submit documentation through City, which was a new process we implemented in July of this year. We also updated minor wording and links for accuracy. This is already in effect, but in order to allow for stakeholder comments, the official effective date will be November 30th of this year. We did not receive any initial comments, and the comment period ended on October 19th. Are there any questions about this BPM PRR? Okay. The next BPM is our candidate CRR holder registration. We have two PRRs. 1384 is additional information for congestion revenue rights holder self-termination, which is in the initial stage. And PRR 1365 is updating congestion revenue rights holder registration for document submission and formatting, which is in the recommendation stage. PRR 1384 was added to include information for CRR holders wishing to self-terminate and adding clarification that once your termination letter is submitted, you will not be allowed to hold additional CRR auction participation. So once you submit that termination, you are effectively agreeing to not participate in CRR markets. There was no comments submitted to this date, and the initial comment period expired on October 19th. And the next step is to post recommendation. PRR 1365, revisions were made same as the scheduling coordinator PRR that we just talked about. We are updating information for how to submit documentation via City submission for your registration information. We received no recommendation comments, and that period expired October 19th, and the next step is to post the final decision. Are there any comments on either one of these PRRs? Okay. The next BPM we're going to talk about today is the direct telemetry BPM. We have two PRRs. PRR 1380 is for high sustainable limits, which is in the initial stage, and PRR 1369 is to update the maximum continuous energy limit battery point definition, which is in the recommendation stage. And I will hand it over to Priyanka to discuss these two PRRs.
Hi, this is Priyanka Namburi from CalISO. So PRR 1380 is submitted by CalISO on high sustainable limit. This is part of our hybrid initiative. We have updated some of the sections in Telemetry BPM that includes the telemetry requirements related to the high sustainable limit. We have not received any initial comments, and the initial comment period has expired on October 19th. The next step is to post recommendation. PRR 1369 was submitted by PG&E. The reason for this revision is we got a request to update the definition for maximum continuous energy limit. And the request was to not bound this limit by the master file as it is not used in the market. We have not received any comments, and the comment period expired on October 19th, 2021. ISO has decided to reject this PRR because per definition, any resource cannot exceed the master file limit. So maximum continuous energy limit should be telemetered with a value that is equal or less than the Pmax in the ISO master file. So we are not proceeding with updating the definition for maximum continuous energy limit. So yeah, as I said, the next step is to reject the PRR. Any questions?
As a reminder, you can raise your hand in the bottom right-hand corner or hit #2 if you dialed in on your telephone to ask a question. Thanks, Priyanka. The next BPM we're going to talk about is Transmission Planning Process. PRR 1379 was for changes to Section 10.4.5 Schedule Request and Deadline. This is in the recommendation stage. The reason for this revision was the need to delay schedule for generator modeling of Phase 6 and subsequent phases. We did not receive any recommendation comments, and the recommendation comment period closed on October 19th. The next step is to post the final decision. Are there any questions about this PRR? Okay. Next, we have our settlements and billing BPMs. We do have 8 PRRs, so instead of reading through all of them, I'm going to hand it over to Brenda to discuss these 8 PRRs.
Thank you, Nicole. Starting with the first one, we have 1383. This was in regards to the regulation no pay pre-calculation, and it's to change the data source from the dispatch operating target calculation quantity. This was effective dated 12/1/2021. It has been deployed. It's going to get deployed on the 28th of this week. And so far, we have no comments submitted for this PR. Our next step is to post final decision. Next PR. 1378 is for charge code 64770 for the real-time imbalance energy offset energy imbalance market. This is just to properly align non-California Balancing Authority areas with the greenhouse gas adjustments. This will be effective dated, retroactive dated to 8/1/2019, and will also be going deployed this week. No comments were submitted at this time, and our next step is to post final decision. 1377 is to update the conversion guides that reflect the settlement exceptional dispatches for designated TMODEL8 and 9. This is to help for the Valley Electric Association and Grid Line to be showing on their areas where we have TMODEL8 and TMODEL9 for them. This will be effective date dated 11/1/2021, and no comments have been submitted at this time. And our next step is just to post the final decision. The next one, 1376, is for the update of conversion guides for the Western Area Power Administrator for the Transmission Exchange Agreement treatment. So for these many guides we've changed, feel free to visit this PR. This will be effective dated 11/1/2021. No comments were submitted at this time, and our next step is to post final decision. 1374 is to update the multiple BPM guides to help accommodate with the intertie shadow pricing resolution initiative. This is effective dated 11/1/2021, and we have no comments submitted at this time. Our next step is to post the final decision. And then next one, 1373 is for the real-time settlement review phase 2 initiative. So we made updates for that along with the fall 2021 release. This was effective dated 11/1/2021. No comments were submitted at this time, and the next step is to post final decision. 1372 is for ESDR. So ESDR phase 4. This also has many guides changed. It's mostly for the settlement bid cost recovery and non-regulation energy management limited for energy resources to align with this initiative. This is effective dated 11/1/2021, and our no comments were submitted at this time. Our next step is to post final decision. And then lastly, 1366 is a 2 guides that were changed with 2 different versions, 6456 version 5.3 and 5.4. This is in regards to the intertie deviation settlement penalty assessment, as well as to currently align it with the tariff language. We do have a few comments submitted for this. For this PR, we were able to respond to them, and as well, we made a few updates to one of the guides for 5.4. It's not listed here, but if you do want additional clarification on what was changed, it's on the announcement on that PR. But other than that, we will be posting our final decision by the end of this week, and this is effective date of 2/1/2021. 2020. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll send it back to Nicole.
Thanks, Brenda. Our final BPM is the Managing Full Network Model. PR 1370 was to utilize a nomogram to manage underscheduled flow events in real-time dispatch. This is in the recommendation stage, and I will hand it over to Vivian to discuss this PRR.
Thank you, Nicole. This revision includes the change in section 2112 to align the BPM with updated contract obligations and the COI pass operation agreement, and also inform market participants that a flow constraint will be enforced on the COI during the unscheduled flow event in RDT. And this change will allow RDT to support the relief obtained by the regional USF procedure. The effect date was September 1st, 2021, since this is an emergency change, and no comment was submitted. The comment period was expired on October 19th. The next step is to post the final decision. Is there any question? Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. That wraps up our call for today. The next BPM meeting will be held on November 16th at 11 a.m. If you have any questions, please email us at bpm_cm@criso.com. And I hope you all have a great day today. Thank you.